Hi, so this is my Pixie Cage Match final against Tracer. So it's the final of the Nocturne Cage Match, with the Cage Match card being Pixie, so Pixie's required. It's best of 5, so here we are. Here what I was thinking was I wanted to thin down a bit and use kind of like buy a province a turn, but there's Bandit Fort, so you don't really want gold and silver if you could avoid it. But there's also Triumph, so the main gains for Triumph would be cash and Pixie. So you want to I wanted to find an opportunity to get, let's say, get a bunch of Triumph points with like Pixie and maybe cash or something. But the only plus buy is Pixie itself. So for starters, yeah, I opened Pixie because I went for Sacrifice instead of Exorcist, because Sacrifice gives you a bit more points when you trash estates. So you kind of try to get ahead a bit with the you sacrifice good draw, but you get kind of a few extra points and you get a bit of money by trashing coppers. So that was what I was going for. So here I did get a warehouse because just to find my goat a bit sooner, and then warehouse diplomat kind of works. I think here I was debating. Well, here I didn't really want the silver right away. I wanted to kind of buy more bazaars and get thin a bit more, because otherwise you kind of fall behind. You kind of want to save the Pixie for something better for a turn you're actually going to use Triumph. And also the Triumph gets you an estate, and then you could trash the estate with Sacrifice too. So you kind of have that VP edge with the Sacrifice that you won't get with the Exorcist. But the Exorcist makes it less likely to dud. But I got lucky here with the Flames gift, which at that point, unfortunately, there I didn't have enough money if I trashed everything, and I was hoping. I already had Sacrifice and Goat as 2 trashers, so I didn't want to trash. Here, since I was only gonna buy a Pixie on this turn, but yeah, so I got rid of the last estate because I still need the coppers for a bit longer here, so I could buy a bit more bazaars or buy cash. I was wondering if Crypt was going to be here, but Crypt is just, you don't have enough treasure, and then you get rid of your treasure that you actually need to buy stuff. So I don't exactly need, like, Diplomat gives you actions, but it's more just draw, since you have Bazaar for the actions. Here you get a cash to get around. You can use cash to get around Bandit Fort, but since I still had an extra copper in my deck, and I might need more actions to play diplomats in case I don't draw it with warehouse, the Bazaar was a bit simpler, safer play. But it's also worth noting that Exorcist can't really buff Triumph because it comes afterwards. You discard after the you trash with you trash after the buy phase. So here, yeah, you get the cash now, and then you're up, and I can even afford 8. But so the tricky thing here is you don't have many plus gains. You don't have a lot of ways to gain. I'm copying the game number there. So we're in both about the same situation, except I got a few extra points with the Sacrifice, and so we're both in pretty much the same situation. Here I debate if I want the Will-O-Wisps, and I think I get them. It's just going to be safer. Even though it sacrifices a pixie, and the pixies are kind of good. And the thing is here, because you're hoping for pixie for, let's say, plus buy, you don't have much time to do stuff, or it's going to be very slow if you do other things, so you kind of just go province. So I figured I had a VP lead slightly thanks to the sacrifice, so I took it. There I get the buys. Here it's interesting because I have 8. But the point that what I'm trying to do here is that this turn I wanted to maximize my triumph points, because it's like something that my opponent couldn't do. Now that I got the plus buy, and then I would be able to trash the estate with the sacrifice to get even more points. So I get the cash, and I think a pixie, and then yeah. But then I have 4 debts, so if I needed, looking at this now, if I wanted to make sure I can afford province, I could have gone copper, and then triumph, and then maybe have less debt at the end. So yeah, exactly here. I didn't have enough money there to buy province. So I was debating if I wanted to trash a copper instead of getting the diplomat, or instead of staying 4, but 4 was still good because the diplomat is a draw, and even if I don't get the actions on it, I have bazaar for actions. So my opponent does get ahead of me in terms of the points, but there's still 4 provinces, so I needed had we just been buying provinces, I would kind of be in a bad situation, unless Pixie saves me. So I kept the copper there, is in case you get a Earth's Gift. It's something extra to discard, but it's just maybe more money. I thought maybe I would need it just in case. So there I can I triumph, and that's 4 points instead of 3 when you take into account the estate. And now the PPR is in my advantage. Penultimate provinces. So if he buys a province and I buy a province, I'll win. So it has to be it's gonna be Dutching dancing for a while. There, maybe I could have discarded the bazaars instead of the one of the bazaars instead of the will-o-wisp, but yeah. So it's we're gonna be dancing around the duchies for a while. So I think my opponent still had a pixie. Or he's going to have a way of triggering the triumph. Or he doesn't have a pixie now, he's going to get one. So in this situation I have exactly 8 money with the 2 bazaars, so trashing the copper might have been not the best, but it keeps me a bit more drawing my deck, which I yeah. So sacrifice can trash a card for for the +2 cards, +2 actions. So you kind of get, it's kind of like a village, but you kind of sift a little. You also kind of cantrip the sacrifice when you do that, so it's a bit slightly more draw. So there he gets the Pixie, and that's gonna be useful there. So here I kind of made a mistake that I didn't realize that I forgot that I assumed I was going to be able to draw my deck, but I didn't realize that I needed both my caches to do by province there. So I actually missed a province in that situation, which is, it would have been bad if my opponent could double province with the Pixie, or could province duchy with the Pixie the turn after I bought the province, but doesn't do that. So if I had so I got kind of lucky with it maybe kind of worked out that I didn't get the province. So and I end up winning that first game. So that was kind of a close one. I felt like the fact that I got that triumph turn and the sacrifice maybe helped a bit, even though it was a bit harsher. Here was another interesting board again with the triumph. It's just interesting to think about how goat influences your opening buys. Because maybe normally without goat you would have gotten I don't know, remake or something, but here you can use more of the single card trashers and eventually catch up. So here I was hoping to get kind of build a deck with conspirators and replace and haunted woods with the Bazaar's village, and try to do whatever you want with the Pixie, because you want to be playing a bit with gains here, because Triumph is there, so you want to have. Here I was gonna buy a Pixie anyway, so trashing a copper was fine. The catapult. Yeah, so if you remember, when you replace something into an action or a treasure, that gets top decked. But my opponent kind of realized that this hand size is so small, the replace isn't gonna actually, since he got the plus buy boon, it's not actually gonna. Yeah, so he could just. Okay, so. Decides not buy the get the second Pixie, instead gets a Magpie, which he didn't have any. So here, because I saw my opponent do it, I realized that replace on copper into Pixie is kind of good. Here I was still gonna just buy a Pixie, so that was all right. Hand size discarding is pretty good when you're hoping for replace stuff. And I get one more Bazaar because eventually I'm going to kind of transition into getting Haunted Woods draw. And but you still need to do replace, so maybe the timing of that could have been a bit better since it's still coin, the Bazaars, so. Here again, just like in the last game, the gains are limited, but at least at this time you have replace, which can. So if you have enough actions, you could replace a bunch of things into VP cards. He gets rid of the catapult there for a better card. So there I get the Haunted Woods, because the Haunted Woods, it's... You can maybe have a thin enough deck, but eventually, like, you're going to be greening a bunch, and I wanted it more for the draw than the attack. Attack's not going to be too relevant for a while. It could become relevant, but it was more I wanted to play one Haunted Woods every turn, so at least I have a bigger starting hand size, and then I can kind of have more freedom to replace things. Kind of because you can gain something mid-turn. So I believe that my opponent at some point got I wasn't sure if he got it already, but the Mountains gift for extra silver that can be replaced into things. So around this time, I kind of realized that the second replace would actually be pretty good, and that I didn't have it. So we're each at kind of at 2 gains unless Pixie helps, and because later on you could get a surprising amount of because if you replace things and then you get other things that other gain stuff, you can kind of triumph, and that's actually kind of nice. The nice thing about triumph is that after you get the estate, you can trash it with the goat and still keep the VP. In the case of the last game, instead of trashing it with goat, you trashed it with sacrifice. So kind of trigger a shuffle. Here, because I have the Haunted Woods now, I don't care so much about the shuffle. Here I take a point from my opponent and kind of get rid of the catapults, because, I mean, I don't know if that was getting rid of the catapult is the best thing, because discarding could still be relevant. Since the draw is my opponent's draw is limited, it's mostly just cantrips that he has. But yeah, so I wanted the gold so that at least I can replace something into province and start that train going. So see here, he's able to get Earth's Gift, discard a bunch of stuff, and then still draw it. If I had done the discard attack, my opponent wouldn't be able to do this. So here, here it was nice that having all the magpies, because I was aware that I can just replace the magpies into other cards, so other replaces or into more golds. So that was kind of I mean, it was nice to have all that fodder afterwards, so I don't really regret the magpie buy at the opening. It had a chance of at least drawing a goat or something, and here my opponent has gained a bunch of cards, so they could triumph here, and I believe they do. I believe Tracer does get the triumph here, and then you could even do things with the estate. So also the other nice thing about replace is that here I didn't think I could my deck would take all the silvers, so I was a bit. So my opponent didn't get that gift, the Mountains gift earlier. Then I still wanted to have a bit more control here, so I don't really take the silver here. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I just played this the same today already, and I'm already forgetting all the little small moves I did. So in here instead, I I wanted to let's say have the Haunted Woods in play every turn, even though it might not have been necessary since I don't think I have that many stop cards. That could have been another replace that I gained, but having the Haunted Woods does let me keep the copper and still be kind of safe. So I still have room to replace something, the copper into a Pixie. So here my opponent gets the second replace, and you do want to be playing with 2 replaces. It's just that my opponent's deck is so thin anyway. It doesn't have too much fodder, well, except the magpies and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of funny. He doesn't get the. So he kind of turned that estate into a Pixie and then triumphed again. So it's a nice amount of points, and he doesn't even have debt. But so here I believe that I get a second replace as well off a magpie. And here I do take this gold because it means that when I trash the gold into a province, I'll still have another gold, and it's a gain for triumph. So what's going to happen here is that, yeah, my thinking here was that I wanted the extra gold that I was going to trash anyway to, since I was going to lose the gold. And it was a nice gain off triumph. So now I'm kind of ahead in VP, and I have Haunted Woods being played every turn. I have a lot of good, a lot of options available to me. So here what happens is that here I was looking, if you, there's 2 piles empty, so if the estate's empty, the game would end. So you wouldn't want to buy a triumph to reduce it, because I have 2 replaces, so I could get the 3 estates in 1 turn, or 2 estates in a triumph. So it's kind of a bad idea to buy the 4th estate in this case. So you have to kind of play the board, and you wouldn't want to have triumphs anymore. But he does get a triumph anyway. So, which is kind of not great, because once I draw the 2 replaces, it's over. Of course, it didn't even matter because I drew the plus buy gift, and here I didn't want to do any math, so just maximizing the points, but yeah, didn't really matter. But I think I still would have won if I had even if I got like a junk boon there, because I had the 2 replaces. So this game was kind of messy. Again, there's no buy except for Pixie, except there was smugglers. We do a bit of a different opening here, I believe. I think what I was looking for was, I wanted to play a bunch of smugglers, so I wanted to thin down with Chapel, play smugglers, play a relic, try to play the board as much, so kind of eventually doing a city thing, depending on what happens with the smugglers and how easy it is to get cities. But you'll see how this plays out. It goes kind of it goes into directions I wasn't exactly thinking, because my opponent gets the yeah, so I do open silver there, because I wanted to kind of hit, let's say, try to hit relic or something, or hit. The thing is, if I draw chapel and silver and 3 coppers, I still get a pixie. That was the logic. So having a silver there was good for me. I wanted the silver. Here you don't trash the goat because eventually the goat's going to trash the chapel. And having the relic is nice because you can trash down and you can buy more pixies. My opponent was already going heavy with. My opponent already got a blessed village. So I was hoping that, especially with chapel, the attack of relic would be good. But I didn't get the smugglers as early as I should have. So my opponent already has 2 smugglers and I have 0. And it's been allowing my opponent to catch up with whatever I've been doing. Opponent gets the silver gift. Here I keep the pixie, hoping that I would get something slightly better. So here I believe I get the blessed village. Yeah, I get the blessed village just so I can get a boon that would hopefully be helpful. But I didn't realize how much it would help my opponents because of the smugglers. So my opponent was able to smuggle 2 blessed villages, and it puts me in a bad. It puts me behind on the blessed villages. You wouldn't think that they matter too much, and in the end, maybe they weren't the biggest deal, but it is a bit more security. So at this point, I feel like I do want the second smugglers because whatever my opponent is doing is surely going to benefit me as well. But you'll see that there's something you do have to take into account. So here I was getting pixies instead of blessed villages. So maybe I should have been a bit more. So what happens is that I get exactly 1 blessed village, and that just enables my opponent's smugglers to get more blessed villages. I didn't think of that initially. So what's gonna happen here is my opponent is, I think, just gonna piles up the blessed villages here. So able to play the 2 smugglers. And so what I kind of didn't. I should have gone, like, let's say 2 blessed villages or 2 pixies or something. Not 1 of each, and kind of have nothing to show for either. Pixie, it's hard because it kind of feels like it's going to eventually do good things, but it's hard to imagine which thing you want exactly, even when it, because it's like at some point of the game, something it could do is going to be helpful. And I was pretty sure that my smugglers were dead there, but I just wanted to make sure. So this is a bad situation. So if I get a city, my opponent smuggles them, and I'm not in a good spot. But so I just went for gold. Is also kind of a bad thing because my opponent could smuggle them, but I was just hoping to get go for provinces now with what I have, and then kind of smuggle any engine components my opponent needs. And the relic attack kind of becomes relevant with only 1 real draw card as the rabble. So now my opponent gets the relic. Here I had an option to get the mountains gift there, and in hindsight I probably should have done it because I was getting ready to green and I wasn't realizing how tight my money would be. Here, if I had discarded any one of these cards, I would not be able to afford province, so I don't do it. And probably there I should have also gained an extra relic. I didn't think I wanted to kind of find my smugglers more often, so I was thinking that he was going to build a bit more. And it doesn't really happen. So here, if you build any bit more, the other person kind of smuggles them and gets ahead of you. So in here, just doing the most efficient greening just is seemed to be the what worked out for both of us. This is actually sped up ×2, this game, and there was a lot of hefty decisions. So my opponent gets the Pixie, which is lets me pile them out. And here, in a similar way my opponent had done with the Blessed Villages, I wanted to empty the Pixie so they can't do anything with their smugglers. And I had a VP lead, so I thought it's nice. Once the greening starts, I'll be able to pop the Pixies for something that's going to help me continue my greening phase. So I do get the last of the Pixies here. And you can kind of see the relic attack. Well, also the rabble is kind of relevant. So here trashing that is because there's no more Pixies, so you can't kind of replace it, and you kind of now you want the Pixie for something else. So that was one of those cases where you don't trash Pixie for the buys. Here I could have maybe top decked the there too. I'm doing all this weird stuff where I'm trying to. I don't know why I'm keeping all these Pixies. Maybe I can understand the not wanting the wisps, because the wisps. So here I was not going to trigger that shuffle. I just wanted to buy province. The wisps can they won't draw too many cards, but it would have been maybe a buffer against the rabble. So now the rabble is starting to hurt me a lot, and I'm actually going to kind of suffer here. It's gonna have a bunch of not very good turns. Here I get the estate, so that if we keep provincing, I would have one VP ahead, even though they can smuggle it. So there's the problem. Even getting a state there, your opponent smuggles it, but then you smuggle it back. But the problem is I didn't have enough money. So I didn't take the silvers when I could. So it's gonna be in a kind of bad situation for a while, trying to keep up here. Yeah, so there too, kind of getting the VP lead over me, even though I can. So here I wasn't even sure what I wanted to do. I thought that I wanted to find the rabble at the same time. If I discard all those treasures, I won't have anything to buy. But then I do it. Then I just change my mind and kind of discard them anyway. I should have at least kept the relic, or I think I keep the So I discard everything, just so that I could find the rabble. I do find the rabble, and I do even get so there it was. If I had drawn, let's say, a relic there, I would have kind of I don't draw the relic, but I do get the plus buy thing, so I do draw the silver, so I'm able to buy the province. But now I lost most of my Pixies, and I don't even find the rabble here. I don't find rabble. So my plan at this point, since I can't buy province, was to farmland the smugglers into duchy. Not realizing that would just kind of, I was in heavy greening mode, but then by doing that, I'm not going to be able to get provinces anytime soon. So I was actually starving for money. I was about to choke in a sea of green there. My opponent actually gets nothing on that turn, which is kind of unfortunate because it would have helped my smugglers. But I still have one smugglers after I trash this, so I thought, okay, I can get the duchy, get the points, but it's gonna just get rough here. I even lose my blessed villages. So my opponent manages to do the same thing, except my opponent's deck is better than mine, it seemed, and I get the copper there, so because at least it's something I can. If I get gold, silver, relic, copper, that's a province. So it's just one thing that's just going to be better than nothing. So copper actually seemed better than nothing at that situation, because at least it helps me hit 8 or 5. So my opponent actually gets the Sky's Gift here, because actually at this point having gold is good. So I'm gonna have several bad turns, I think. Yeah, so this is I mean, I guess it's obvious at this point, but this is pre-recorded. I played this today, and I'm I'm recording as the same day that I played. I just didn't want to record live because there was a bunch of noise in my house. My dog, I was expecting someone to come in. I don't know. But anyway, so my hands are looking pretty bad. My opponent's hands are also kind of bad, but has extra goals over me because of that Sky's Gift. So just going heavy green. There I took the silver because just taking estates, my opponent would just end the game with smugglers, so I'm in a super bad situation. I can't do anything because it's just going to end on piles no matter what I do. So here I just forfeit the game, get the last estate for the loss. Yeah, so there it felt like just not having enough money, or not having the key village when I needed it for rabble. So letting my opponent get all the 7 of those blessed villages kind of hurt. I was wondering, it's pretty, yeah, so that last game was yeah, he kind of convincingly won at the end. So this game, this is a colony game, so you kind of just want the ironmongers for the village effect, and then you play werewolves and whatever other things you can do with Pixie and Necromancer. And I thought a bit about the expand, but my estates are going to be gone, and the expand doesn't really do much. Ball is kind of important. The only plus buy here was Pixie and Contraband. So I was hoping to get Contraband a bit later, so I can get Ball. Because with Contraband they can't block Ball, and there's a lot of things you could buy. So you could always just buy, if they block Werewolf, you Stonemason for Werewolf. There's a lot. The Contraband was like really nice here, it seemed to me. And the Oracle, well, the Oracle helps you get the goat, find goat fast, and maybe discards the opponent's goat. Yeah, there's a lot of things. So here, yeah, you just want ironmongers. So there, I was just hoping to, yeah. So there, I got the Contraband. Then seeing you could ball, get the ironmongers. So yeah, here's nice that you kind of, there's not a lot of things you can block, so it blocks the ironmonger, but you just ball for it. So it was kind of, the Contraband seemed kind of nice, and you're not going to get a plus buy for a long time. So there we split the ironmongers 5-5. I can blocks yeah, so not able to get werewolf. So I'm debating here if I want to ball for something, or if I just want to get pixies or stonemason for pixies. And I believe I can stonemason for pixies, because then with the necromancer, eventually you can just trash the stonemason, but still have it kind of in supply with your necromancer. So here, my opponent's going to start naming stonemasons so that I can't get too many buys. But Yeah, so with a Necromancer now I can trash Stonemason with the Zombie Apprentice, and then still kind of have a good deck. So, and yeah, with the Stonemason there was a lot of things you have to think about with the piles, right? So yeah, so my opponent now is starting to get the really get a bunch of werewolves with the Stonemason. Yeah, here I'd get to trash. Trashing's kind of nice, but it does mean that it's going to be hard for me to do certain plays, because I would need the contraband to afford, let's say, platinum, but then I can't buy platinum, and so I'm debating if I want to actually play the contraband or if I just want the Stonemason for 2 werewolves. So it does block the Stonemason, but I realize that I could just buy 2 werewolves with the 10. And that seemed better than having an extra Stonemason in my deck. So now the hexes are going to start being relevant, and yeah, getting more werewolves. So now my opponent actually has 2 Stonemasons, which is actually kind of a big deal. There I got rid of the Oracle, but with the Necromancer. The Necromancer was pretty nice, honestly. Here my I was hoping to buy, let's say, platinum or something, but or more werewolves, because I only have 3 werewolves. I didn't want a bit more draw. So here I can still buy a werewolf and, let's say, a pixie, but the silver helps afford, let's say, better cards. So at this point I felt pretty good about my deck. It felt like I did have a good lead on this one. So my opponent doesn't have much to do on that turn. So I have diluted. So the diluted kind of hurts pretty bad here, because that means that I have to so here I'm trying to figure out if I can use a Zombie Mason to kind of get points here, or to try to get or not what I'm trying to think, if I should play the werewolf, or there's some way I can kind of draw. So I have to figure out how many cards are in my discard. So let's say I play the Oracle with the Necromancer. I was trying to figure out if I'm going to trigger a bad shuffle. So their name's Platinum, and then but I can get so I do get I believe 2 balls here. So the balls do a bunch of nice things. Yeah. So actually here, what I didn't technically, if my opponents had good so if my opponent's losing by 1, he couldn't, let's say, Stonemason into 4 pixies and then get the werewolf and win, because he has -1 point unless he trashes the last thing with the goat. So doesn't have the actions to pile out, because he could have trashed the copper with the goat. So this is the so it still felt pretty good here. Yeah, so he trashes that curse, gets points, and I also have to get points. So yeah, this kind of hurts that I had to So here I want to make sure I don't dud, so I tried to find the actions I need, and I do. Here it's interesting if I want to get the gold, but so the other thing that my opponent got baths points. That actually matters a bunch. So yeah, here's where I want to try to roll, see if I could pile out by finding, let's say, like my goat into an estate or something. Would have been very nice, because then I can kind of buy province and then overpay stonemason 2 times. But doesn't quite work out. I don't even think I would have been able to win with that kind of play. So here I am able to buy, let's say, province and estates, and I was trying to debate if I want to buy silver or just a 2. So I end up getting province and then either beggar or pixie. So the beggar would have given me more money to afford, let's say, colony without the well, not really, but it would help me get more help it easier to hit province. So but I get the pixie instead, and this is kind of where I forgot that my opponent had the 2 stonemasons, because my opponent can trash 2 cards with stonemasons into 3 pixies and an estate, and then buy the last werewolf, which is exactly what happens. I didn't see this one coming, so I lost by exactly 1 point, and even the baths kind of mattered there. So I felt like I threw that game away. I was kind of bummed out about that, because I felt like I was in a better position that game. Although I could have just done it that last turn. That's also possible. So here we go into the final game. So it gets really tense. And Tracer starts, and it's a King's Court board. And it's Wild Hunt and Horn of Plenty, so it has all the stuff. And it does have wall and battlefield, so that's kind of interesting. Here I was hoping that I can build like a King's Court draw thing, and then maybe a Horn of Plenty mega turn or something, even though wall makes it harsh. So I thought that as for the opening, I kind of wanted to see if I can get duplicate, so it kind of duplicates any of the 5 draws, so like the Wild Hunt or the Patrol or the Horn of Plenties. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking you get something and then duplicate. You keep, every time you get a 5, you get another one, and all sorts of nice stuff happens. But I kind of think it was not a great idea. But I do open donate. This time you do have plus buy and herbalist, so that was kind of something I didn't notice right away. I've just figured the best source of buy would be a Horn of Plenty. And yeah, so this game was going to be pretty explosive. I was not sure how to deal with wall. I figured as long as I'm trashing with goat and stuff, eventually the wall, like, I'll get some negative VP, but it's going to be worth it. Because you build up the Wild Hunt engine thing. So there I was looking at how Horn of Plenty interacts with Duplicate. So if you call Duplicate, does it boost Horn of Plenty? It does. And here I get the Wishing Well. Pixie also would have been good, because then the Pixie disappears, whereas the Wishing Well stays around forever unless you trash it. So that's when I realized. So here's where the problem was I didn't even know what I wanted to do with my Duplicate. I kept wanting, like, having the option to call it, and I don't, and the Duplicate does pretty much nothing, and yeah. So I was not perfectly thinking straight. this game. And my opponent hits an early King's Court, which is kind of really hurts. Here I'm able to gain a bunch of cards. The pixies are disappearing, and then I could buy a third pixie. So I was hoping that the pixies would help me get King's Court, even though with the King's Court you can't call duplicate on it. Yeah, here I got a nice opportunity to trash a bunch of cards. It's going to be helpful. So I got hit by a whole bunch of hexes there, and that's what I'm kind of seeing, that a Tormentor, getting the early King's Court was so important. It does give me the opportunity to get Horde of Plenty, at least. But even with the Horde of Plenty, I feel like I'm too behind to call duplicate, add the duplicate, and the Horde of Plenty would just be stall cards. My opponent shows me that they kind of missed their King's Courts. So there I get the 2 Wild Hunts. Finally, I call my duplicates, because at least they'll be drawing. Here, I could have played the Tormentor and then just get Imp, which maybe that's what I should have done. I wanted to draw a bit more cards to boost. Yeah, here I wanted to afford King's Court finally. So actually, I could get I was able to get 2 King's Courts that turn. So I kind of, though I'm a bit behind. So here, that's when I should have played the Tormentor. I should have not tried to draw, because no matter what I drew, I wouldn't be able to continue my turn. So there I should have just played the Tormentor, get the Imp. Then again, it did make my opponent discard some cards, so who knows what was actually the correct thing. So I get... I mean, I can't even complain about my draws, because my opponent had similar draws, and I haven't really trashed my deck down thin enough, so this is bound to happen. And now I'm starting to get wrecked by the hexes. And my opponent has the Horn of Plenty and has the whole draw deck, and this is where I felt like I was kind of doomed here. I felt where I was just bound to lose. I somehow have even -9 points thanks to Wall. So my opponent has all the nice. So hexing me 3 times every turn, it really hurts. And he gets the estate, and my opponent just gets really nice, deck now. So I kind of felt like I was kind of done for. That's what it felt like. But I kind of wanted to play on, so because hoping I can get King's Courts there. If I get a good turn with King's Court, I could have maybe turned it around. So here with Battlefield especially, you want to kind of green early. Yeah, so I get the points. Here I had an option to play duplicate, but I felt like the having a hex seemed a bit hoping, or having the money, but maybe I should have. So here finally I get very lucky that my opponent duds, and I get a nice turn. I remember that I'm debating if I have other Wild Hunts, and I do, because I kind of called duplicate on my Wild Hunt. The one time I used the duplicate. Right. So here I'm just doing all the things you want to do. Getting the points. So now I'm actually kind of catching up. Here. Yeah, the problem here is now I've lost all my pixies. But, you know, I have things that are starting to... It seems like things are starting to turn around, even though my opponent's going to get a very good... has to get a very good turn next turn. So I'm debating what I get with Horn of Plenty. So I guess I do feel like I have to build, and I felt like I had to get some green cards. I debate if I want to get 2 King's Courts, but that can end. He could probably end. I was worried he could end piles if I do that, and then I felt like I was in a pretty bad situation here, no matter what I did. My opponent got a Herbalist, so now my opponent has Buy. But so then I realized that maybe I also need Buy, because without any more pixies. So really just weighing the options, and depending if I want the Wild Hunt or if I want the other kind of draw or another pixie. But so here I don't even call the duplicate, I don't think. So I don't know what I was trying to do. And my opponent's just gonna kick off. And here I had a good opportunity, wondering if my opponent could even. It's getting to the point where my opponent's close to piling out, and he's getting a bunch of green, and I lose all those good cards. So my next turn is gonna really suck. But then again, considering all those other hexes that came out, the locusts and stuff, I was gonna lose a bunch of stuff anyway. It's kind of seeing what hexes I got. It seemed like I was destined to lose my good top deck. He had diluted. I forgot that I actually gave him diluted, so I could have maybe been a bit more aggressive with the piles, knowing this. So I could have maybe gotten King's Court and stuff. A King's Court Wild Hunt Pixie would have been an option if I had known that he had. Yeah, saying it depending if the Pixie worked out. If I had tried to lower piles and then he was able to, let's say, get a lot of estates with the Wild Hunts. But I don't know if he would have been able to pile out. So my opponent's getting a bit more draw, a bit more. Well, not only just draw, it's also points. So I was telling him that he can only be able to get 2 things from the supply with the Horn of Plenties, and maybe up to 4 with the Pixies. But yeah, so definitely my opponent was for sure going to get a green card here for the last battlefield points. That's how I was thinking of it. So yeah, this is because the game's not quite over. It does have to think a lot about what to do. And it's like this was like the last game, so we were 2-2 here, and whoever won this game won the Nocturne. Well, not the Nocturne, the Cage Match tournament. So yeah, so now my opponent ended up getting the King's Court, and I don't even draw any of my Wild Hunts. I couldn't have, because they all got discarded. I at least get to hex my opponent a bunch. I was hoping that would be something, but yeah, I just wanted to get some kind of supply pile that wasn't Wild Hunt, so that so again, my failing to react with my duplicates, such amazing things. So actually there, my opponent does again, so I thought maybe I'd have a chance, but I don't draw the thing I need, so I can't really. Even if I draw a King's Court there, there's nothing. I would be so I also dud. So there was just and my opponent kicks off here and is pretty much sets to win the game, depending on what the Pixie does. I think, yeah, so it goes for the pile out, and it doesn't even need the Pixie, it just has the Herbalist as buy. The game is over here because he just buys King's Court and the last Pixies. So he wasn't sure how much money he needed there, so he plays the Tormentor, but not so bad. And so here, yeah, so he just kind of wins the game here, and that makes this is how Tracer won the tournament. This is how he won the cage match tournament with Nocturne, featuring Nocturne. And yeah, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and this was a fun tournament, and thanks for Tracer for organizing it.